So when I was at Wrecked, a nerfer named Troy gave me this. Now, I've taken a pretty long break from Ravens, but it's been a little while and I've gotten to the point where I can work on them without feeling worn out. And so I wanted to do something special with this Raven, and I have a project all in mind. It didn't have a jam door, and it was missing a few things inside and some hot glue. So I've gone ahead and I've gutted it already, and I found replacements for most of the internals, and I think I know what I'm going to do with it. But before we do anything else, I don't want to spoil the surprise, so I'm going to start sanding and prepping the blaster. Just a friendly reminder, the best mods and paint jobs start with the best sanding jobs, so take your time with it, spend a lot of time sanding. You'll know that your sanding job is coming along really nicely when you have that very chalky finish, not only on the blaster, but also on yourself. So this one is pretty close to ready to be washed and then prepped. The logos have been left on because I have a kind of funny new idea for this blaster, and it should be pretty neat. So due to the cold seeping in Georgia, I have to do all of my painting in an enclosed area that I can heat, because the enamel just won't cure in cold, more or less. So I've got this strung up on my hook, which I hang from my garage door opener, and it looks like this is finally a very clean coat. If you're wondering what all the tape is on here, well, obviously there is a base coat underneath this, and that'll all be obvious when I show you the final blaster. But for now, I just kind of wanted to show that this is my painting technique. It's important to spend more time on your prep work than it is your actual painting, because the painting itself is easy, so make sure you take your time taping off all of your individual portions and such, along with just making sure that your base coat is even. So this should be more or less ready to go, and I'm going to start working on the internals. Let's do it. Alright, so here inside the Gear-Up Rayven, you can see that there are a few things that we've already done and a few things we have to make choices about. First off, we have two options here. I went out and bought some very expensive Tamiya motors because they're the best for flywheel applications, just hands down. So I went ahead and bought the top-of-the-line Plasma Dash motors, but I don't think I want to use those for this project. I think that instead I'm going to use one of the next best things, which is the Tamiya torque-tuned motors, because the torque-tuned are designed for torque, obviously, which means that they're going to impart more force onto the flywheels, which will in turn impart more force onto the darts. So they should still be ideal for this application, so I think I'm going to go with those. In addition to that, it's worth noting that I have come in and just like the Celine Rayven, I've added an extension spring to the pusher rod, so now it's going to pull just as nice, if not a little bit nicer than a Strife, and that's been locked down with 2-part epoxy into this well. I just kind of teased the spring in there, and then you can see I just fill it with epoxy, and that locks it down forever. And then over here I've gone ahead and refitted a micro switch in with some higher gauge wire, so the leads aren't connected to anything quite yet because I haven't installed the motors, but now the switch, instead of using a stock Nerf switch, will have a very fast response time due to using this new micro switch. So everything is more or less ready to go inside, and I'll show you what the internals look like when it's done. Here's one final look at the insides. You can see that all of this custom rigging leads to a very crisp trigger pull. The Tamiya motors are humming already, and then our actual trigger is very smooth, very precise, and redacts very quickly. So everything looks good to go on the inside. Now let's get to work on the outside. So part of summer in Georgia is the bugs. You're just going to have to deal with that noise in the background. I'm sorry. But this is the final Gear-Up Rayven. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I like the accenting. I'm not so thrilled that the color between the original Gear-Up plastic and the current orange, as well as the Super Soaker, isn't an exact blend. It's somewhere in between the two. The highlights are pretty close, though, and I think that's neat. So this is my Gear-Up Rayven project, and I like how it turned out. I'm going to go ahead and throw in a SE&C clip in here and rev it up. It's got plenty of power. These motors are sweet. And an ultra smooth primary, really, and then breaks down to something much smaller, much more compact. And couldn't be happier with it. I like the combination of the pieces. I think that it turned out very nice, and I hope you guys like it too. I like doing these occasional throwbacks. There hasn't been a Whiteout blaster in a while, so I'm thinking of turning something into a Whiteout blaster. No word on that quite yet because I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to be doing, but the Gear-Up line was one of my favorites. I was around when it came into being, and I really liked Gear-Up Mavericks, and I think that this is sweet. I also think that it needs a Vortex disc. Only a few of you will understand that, but it definitely needs a Vortex disc. But this is my Gear-Up Rayven, and I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, guys, thanks for watching. So, of note, after much thinking about it and going back and forth and playing with it a couple of times myself, I've decided to part ways with the Gear-Up Rayven. I will be selling it on my eBay store. It's an auction. All of my auctions start at 99 cents, and if you are in the market for a new Sambo or Humans vs. Zombies primary, I think that this could be just the ticket. It supports the channel, helps me buy polycarbonate and gasoline and all manner of excellent nerfing equipment that I need, and would really mean a lot to me. So if you're in the market for such a primary, feel free to check it out on eBay. If not, no hard feelings. Thanks for watching.